Do you remember a time in your life when you first discovered that you had raw talent? Do you remember how old you were? What you were doing in that moment that you had that feeling or that discovery? Because I have that memory. I have a few, but one particularly distinct memory. I'm 7 years old, and I'm playing at my friend Carrie's house, who lives just up the street from me, a very hot Wisconsin sunny summer afternoon. And while I can't remember what it is that we were doing in her bedroom that day, I can remember what was going on in the kitchen downstairs. And what was going on in the kitchen downstairs was her parents were sitting around the table with their fellow bandmates. So they were in a band called the Runaways, and they were trying to decide some catchy marketing slogan to put on a poster that they were going to hang around town to advertise an upcoming gig that they were having. So I had this bright idea pop into my head, and I mustered up the courage, and I ran downstairs, and I peered behind that kitchen wall. And I said, Mr. and Mrs. Jetski, I have an idea. Since your name is the Runaways, what about Catch Us If You Can? And they were a bit more surprised than even I was when they liked it. They said, yeah, kid, not bad. We're going to use it. We like it. And I'll never forget the pride I had in that moment of, wow, I'm just a little kid and I help these big adults find their voice and their message to get out there. And I said, Shannon, you are a marketing consultant. Which we know is not true, because what 7-year-old knows what a marketing consultant is? But something happened. Something transpired inside of me. I felt that creative juice start flowing. I felt those seeds of loving small business planted inside of my bones. And as I grew, those seeds grew. I can remember in middle school, we would go back to school clothes shopping every August. And in northern Wisconsin, I don't know, I'm telling you, shopping malls are hard to come by. They're very few and far between. So this was a big ordeal. So we would go back to school clothes shopping all weekend long, come home tired, just pooped out. But what did I do? I had to impeccably stage all of these new clothes for both my two little sisters and I around the living room and make my sisters repurchase all of their new clothes the way I laid it out. Because that's what big sisters do. They make little sisters do stuff. That's just how that goes. In high school, I used to do what many of you probably do during the Super Bowl, which was I analyzed commercials. That was fun for me. I liked to watch the commercials to figure out, who are they trying to talk to? What's the message? Are they lying or not? Does that stain remover really work that way? And so no surprise that I went to college for marketing. I competed nationally a few times in marketing competitions. I took first place in the nation 2 years in a row, something I was really proud of back then. And I knew business was in my future. I just wasn't quite sure how. And after college, I went to work for a really big business. I went to work, as Johanna said, for a Fortune 100 financial services company. And my role there was the right-hand person to a managing director who oversaw billions of dollars in revenue and thousands of people and yada, yada. I was the person behind the curtain that basically made sure things happened. I took the big vision that he had and did whatever needed to be done to bring that vision to life. And I loved that job. I did it for a long time, 12 years. I stayed with that company for 15 years. And by the end of that 15 years, I had worked my way up to it, a few different roles. And I had my fancy VP title myself, and I was jetting all over the place talking about really important things. And at the end of that 15 years, when I got my glass cube thanking me for my service thus far, because that's what you get after 15 years at a Fortune 100, I knew something had to change. I knew it was time for me to make a change and follow what was in my heart. Because what most people at that company didn't know about me, they thought I was going to be a lifer there. What they didn't know about me is that I had a closet serial entrepreneur thing going on myself behind the scenes. Over that 15-year period, I had started 6 different entrepreneurial endeavors. 2 of them I'm still running today. Some quick math on that will tell you that 4 of them I am not, which means I've made some big mistakes. But I've also had some really great successes and some fantastic mentors and thousands of hours of experience. And what I can tell you today, unequivocally, is that the difference between purpose-driven, passionate entrepreneurs and successful, purpose-driven, passionate entrepreneurs is that they had a plan in place. Now plans, you may think, well, yeah, duh. I mean, and they come in many different shapes and sizes and various levels of complexity. But what I'm talking about is something different than your standard business plan that you could Google and get thousands of results in within a matter of seconds. I'm talking about a new concept that, for the sake of giving it a name, I call the purpose-driven business plan. Because as a purpose-driven business owner, you do things a little bit differently. Your purpose comes from your why. Your purpose is your big picture. It's your whole life that goes into this decision and this business. And because it's a little bit different, it has to be done a little bit differently. So as I said, I'm not going to walk through everything that's included in this, but what I am very compelled to share with you are 5 key attributes that I see commonly a part of successful purpose-driven business plans. You heard me say that I left this company to follow my heart, to do what I truly love. Because what I truly, truly love is helping other small business owners realize their dreams. Because the way I see it, a goal without a plan is just a dream. And those are really important, but I'd rather help make those come true. And I guess when I call it a love, it's really more of an obsession, if I'm being very candid with you. I am absolutely obsessed with opportunities and possibilities. And at the end of the day, I'm obsessed with this vision about what the world looks like if we're all using those raw talents that we have. And I want that for you. I want that for everybody. So the purpose-driven business plan, 5 key attributes. The first one, and actually this is a bit of a prelude to the plan, if you will. The first one is you have to experiment. You got to play around a little with this. Just because you love to do something does not mean that you will love to get paid to do this something. Let me tell you about one of my first epic business fails. This was the first business I had. True Simplicity Home Organizing. I'm a very organized person. I am, your quintessential A-type OCD gal. My junk drawer is the envy of all my friends. I can hang my hat on that. So I thought, well, I love to help people. I'm good at this. This would be a phenomenal business. So what did I do? Well, I had to prepare. I needed the business cards. I needed the logo. I needed the website. I needed the marketing materials. I needed the course. I needed the certification. I needed all this stuff to feel like I could go pound the pavement and work with people. So I did that. I spent a lot of time and money and energy doing that. And within my first few clients, I realized, wow, I do not like doing this for other people. Because when I'm cleaning my closet, I am just, I can throw away whatever I want. But when I walk into somebody else's mess, like my eye twitch factor was just off the charts. And quite frankly, what most people thought they needed an organizer for, they really needed a therapist. They really had more of a hoarding. No, true story. Hoarding is a serious condition. It really is. But I didn't know that until I started. And I had wasted a lot of time and money figuring it out. You have to experiment to know you want to do it. Don't you think it's crazy that in education majors, curriculum, and undergrad, they don't student teach till the very end? I had a friend in college who wanted to be a teacher her whole life until her first week of student teaching. She's like, what am I doing? It also gives you proof of concept. Because here's the thing. We get really close to our ideas. When we're passionate about them, sometimes we've got the blinders on. It's hard to see the forest through the trees. Tech companies do this great. You've heard of things being in beta, right? They're working out the kinks. They're working out the bugs. They're making sure that there's a demand for the product or service that they're offering before they go big. You have to experiment. Number 2, you have to start with the end in mind. Okay, I didn't make this up. This is Stephen Covey's habit number 2 in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Because when you start with the end in mind, your brain does this crazy thing, and I don't know the scientific explanation, and that's not really necessary tonight anyway, but your brain does this crazy magic where it works backwards to figure out the quickest way to get there. And let's talk about the end. What's the end mean for you? I'm not just talking about a revenue goal, because purpose-driven businesses care about more than just money. They're in this for bigger reasons. You're in this for bigger reasons. Your end is, how do you want to live your life? Who are the type of people that you want to be serving? How many weeks of vacation do you want to take a year? Do you want to take your laptop when you go? Do you want to leave it at home? All of these things, conditions that you have to think about and take into consideration. You have to craft what that looks like so that you know where you're going. If you don't do this, you run the risk of getting swept up in what I like to call sexy online persuasion. And this is the latest gadget, gizmo, program, course, whatever you need to take to be better, do better, make $1 million in 7 minutes. I'm not knocking that stuff. It works great for a lot of people, but it depends. That's always my answer. Will this work for my business? It depends. What's your end game? This end game is your North Star. It guides you through a lot of different decisions that you make during the course of your business. Do I go back to school? Do I lease the space? Do I hire the assistant? Start with the end in mind. The third attribute is you have to know your numbers. Most of my clients hate this one, and I love this one because I was raised on the envelope system. I don't know if that rings a bell for any of you. But the envelope system is a budgeting system that has been handed down for multi-generations in my family. And it works a little something like this. Dad would go get his paycheck cashed every other week, come home with a wad of cash, sit down at the kitchen table with Mom, who would yank the envelopes out of the undie drawer. And they would go through each envelope, which represented a different expense category in our household. Mom would say what amount was due in that envelope to sustain us for the next 2 weeks. Dad would dole out the money. It was like big kid Monopoly, and I loved it. Now I'm 16 years old, and I'm getting serious about where I'm going to go to college. And I expect that my parents are going to really float the bill for this college. And I can't really understand that there's not quite enough money for that to happen. All my friends' parents were paying for their college. I said, Brad, if I could just go back. My dad said this. He said, you know what? You're doing the envelopes with us this Friday. I don't know how else to explain it to you. You sit down, you watch. I watched him go through the whole process. And when we got to the end, this is what got to go in the miscellaneous folder, is whatever was left. And on that day, what was left was about $120. And he held it up and he said, this is why we can't. And in that crystallizing moment, I learned a very important lesson. Ladies and gentlemen, the numbers don't lie. They will never lie to you. And I understood. I understood why. You are not at liberty in your business to not know your numbers. All of them. If you make a product, if you manufacture a product, I'm talking about every single raw ingredient that goes into it, the labels, the packaging, the marketing. If you have a brick and mortar location, the rent, the utilities, the staff, the paper you print your receipts on, if you're still doing that. This is Boulder, I'm not sure. If you sell a service, it's not just the time that you spend with your clients. It's the time that you spend with your potential clients trying to court them into becoming clients. It's a lot of different things. You have to know your numbers. If you don't, you're never going to truly be profitable because you don't actually know what profitable is. There is no definition of profitable for you. And how do you grow and scale your business when you don't know what it takes to do so? You have to know your numbers. Number 4, you have to go deep. Deep, deep, deep. I'm talking about your brand here. So at my branding agency, a lot of clients come to me initially because they've just started a business and they think they need a logo and a website right out of the gate. We've got to get those business cards, got to get that dialed in. Yes, those things are important. We create those things. Truly, I believe they're important. However, they are not the first step. Because before you can create those types of deliverables that are going to truly exemplify and represent who you are as a business, you have to know a lot of things about yourself. I'm talking about your mission, your values, what your core messaging is. Why are you doing what you're doing? Who are you trying to do it for? How do you want to be perceived? How do you create value? How do you make people's lives better? How do you create meaningful experiences for people? Because let me tell you, you don't solely own your brand as a business owner ever. Sure, you might own the copyrights and the files, the logos and things and whatnot, but you don't own your brand exclusively because your brand is a collection of a lot of people's net perceptions of you. And how are perceptions formed? Through experience. It's a lot to think about. If you don't go through this work first, You can create the logo, you can create the website, you can do all that stuff, but something, and I promise you, something at the end is not going to feel just right. You'll look at it and go, I don't know, I just don't feel like it really represents me. It just doesn't really capture who I really am. And I'm getting these clients that aren't really the type of clients I want to work with, and I'm answering these same questions from my customers over and over again until I'm blue in the face, and I feel like they're just not really getting my message. It's because you didn't get the message. You got to go deep. And the fifth and final thing, you have to be able to implement whatever this plan is going to be for yourself. Not just you have to implement, let me clarify, you have to be able to implement. It has to be implementable. I don't even know if that's a word, but that is a word now. It is one thing to have a list of things to do that you want to accomplish in any given time period, let's say a year. But it is a completely different exercise to yank out that calendar and go down those items one by one and figure out, okay, if I'm going to really do this well, how much time is it going to take to prepare it, to promote it, to execute it, and to follow up on it properly? That's a whole different ball of wax. My mom used to say, Shannon, you're always trying to shove 10 pounds of potatoes in a 5-pound sack. Actually, that's a lie. She used to say shit. I just thought potatoes made for a better visual in this talk. But the truth be told is, look, it's the curse of being aspirational, right? It's the curse of wanting to accomplish things. But you have to know your own limitations. And you got to go back to number 2, with starting with the end in mind. This is where that really comes in handy. Because if you know you don't want to work until 6 p.m. on December 24th, then don't set something up for yourself where if you're going to be successful for any given year, you're working for the whole month of December. Right? These are the things we have to take into consideration. You have to know your own limitations. And you have to know basic math of how many days there are in a year. That last 2 years of my corporate job, I had a new boss. And on the first day, he gave me a 1-pager. And at the top of that page, it said, Regional Top 10 Focus Items. Okay, here's the thing. By definition, you cannot focus on 10 things at one time. They are no longer a focus at that point. It is really difficult to focus on more than 3 things at a time, arguably more than 1 thing at a time, depending on who you are and how big these things are. If you don't go through this calendar exercise in terms of implementing your plan and what you want to get done, here's what happens. You're at the end of the year, and you feel like you haven't really accomplished really much of anything. Because that list is ever revolving. And as something falls off, something comes back on. So you don't want to work your tail off all year, having been truly effective, but feel like you just didn't accomplish anything. It's very important psychologically as an entrepreneur, as a business owner. You have to be able to implement. So let me recap these 5 things. You have to experiment. You have to start with the end in mind. Got to know your numbers. Got to go deep. And you have to be able to implement. Look, you either have a business or you have an idea for a business that matters an incredible amount to you. You are passionate about it. And thank God, the world needs your passion. The world needs your ideas, now more than ever. The world needs your unique solutions to its problems. And that passion, by the way, that's what's going to fuel you through the long nights, through the self-doubt of, am I good enough to be doing this? Is this really going to work? Through the stress of the inconsistent paycheck. I get it. I've been there. But if you're going to pour your heart and soul into this, why not give it every opportunity to succeed? Don't get caught in what I like to call the broken love triangle of purpose and passion with no plan. So I want you to ask yourself some tough questions. I know I've thrown out a lot at you, but I want you to ask yourself, and let's have a keep it a real moment, as I like to call it. Where in your business do you need to do the work? What is the one thing that you've been procrastinating on that you know you need to spend some time with? Do you need to figure out those numbers? Is it something you've been putting off? Because quite frankly, it's not really your thing and you don't even know where to start. Do you have so much on your plate that you know like half of it needs to come off, but you're not sure how to evaluate which are the most important things? What is the one area? And most importantly, how are you going to get help? How are you going to get help with that thing? What are you going to do? Are you going to hire the assistant? Are you going to hire the professional, somebody like me who you can call up and we can walk through this goop, get you through to the other side? Are you going to take a vacation? Figure it out. Are you going to go off to the woods with no cell phone service for a week and once and for all figure it out? What are you going to do? And what are your dreams? This is at the heart of it all. What are your dreams? Do you want to take 2 months off every year so that you can go abroad and learn a new language? Do you want to move your business in a completely different direction, only working with a certain kind of client, doing a certain type of work, something that feels different and maybe a little scary to you? What are your dreams? Because I'll tell you mine. My dream is to help as many people like you realize their dreams. Because I truly believe, with all of my heart, that this world is a better place when purpose-driven, passionate entrepreneurs are realizing those dreams. Thanks. It's been an honor to be here with you.